On a freezing night in 1971, a man jumped from a commercial airliner with $200,000 and simply vanished. He called himself Dan Cooper. Mid-flight, he showed a flight attendant a briefcase bomb and demanded 4 parachutes and a fortune in cash. After securing the ransom, he ordered the Boeing 727 back into the sky. Somewhere over the pitch-black wilderness, Cooper lowered the plane's rear stairs, stepped into the freezing void, and disappeared. Did he plummet to his death or survive the impossible? Years later, a rotting stack of his ransom money was unearthed on a riverbank, yet Cooper remained a ghost. Microscopic titanium particles found on his abandoned tie suggest he wasn't just a reckless thief, but a highly skilled aerospace insider. The FBI closed the case in 2016, leaving it the only unsolved skyjacking in aviation history. Is the perfect crime buried in the woods, or did D.B. Cooper walk away to live among us? 36 men tried to escape the world's most secure prison. Only 3 vanished completely. June 1962, Alcatraz. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers spent months scraping away their cell walls with sharpened spoons. To fool the night guards, they left terrifyingly realistic dummy heads in their beds, meticulously crafted from plaster, soap, and real human hair. Slipping through the vents, they vanished into the freezing San Francisco Bay on a makeshift raft built from 50 stolen raincoats. The FBI claimed the frigid waters killed them, but no bodies were ever found. The very next day, a raft was reportedly discovered on a nearby island, and a car was stolen on the mainland. Decades later, a mysterious photo from Brazil and a 2013 letter allegedly from a dying John Anglin claimed they survived. U.S. Marshals are still hunting them today. Did the dark bay swallow them whole, or did they pull off the impossible? 239 people vanished into thin air, leaving behind only faint electronic pings and a haunting final message. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 took off for Beijing. Somewhere in the dark sky, its communication systems went dead. The final words heard from the cockpit were chillingly normal. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Then the Boeing 777 silently veered off course, flying like a ghost ship for hours toward the remote southern Indian Ocean. Investigators still don't know why. Was the aircraft deliberately taken off course by unlawful interference, or did a catastrophic failure occur? To this day, the main wreckage and the crucial black box remain lost in the abyss. Only scattered, barnacle-crusted pieces of debris have washed ashore on distant beaches. Multiple high-tech, deep-sea searches spanning thousands of square miles have turned up absolutely nothing. 12 years later, it remains aviation's darkest puzzle. Where exactly does MH730 lie, and who or what dragged it into the deep? Imagine finding a fully stocked ship drifting in the middle of the ocean without a single soul on board. In December 1872, the Mary Celeste was discovered adrift in the cold Atlantic. Her sails were set, 6 months of food sat untouched. Her cargo of 1,701 barrels of alcohol remained perfectly intact. But Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their toddler, and 7 crewmen had vanished into thin air. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, and no fire. The only clues left behind were a missing lifeboat and a disassembled water pump. For over a century, theories have raged. Did the crew fear leaking alcohol fumes would trigger a massive explosion? Or did a clogged pump and a faulty compass trick an experienced captain into abandoning a perfectly good vessel? The truth remains hidden. The 10 people who boarded the Mary Celeste were never seen again. The ocean swallowed them whole, leaving behind only a ghost ship drifting silently into history. Imagine unlocking the door to a remote lighthouse only to find it completely abandoned. In December 1900, 3 keepers vanished from Scotland's isolated Flannan Isles without a single trace. When a relief crew finally arrived, the scene was chilling. The doors were firmly shut, the clocks had stopped, and the beds were unmade. The men were simply gone. The clues only deepened the nightmare. Only one waterproof coat was left hanging by the door. This meant one keeper rushed into a freezing, violent winter storm in just his shirt sleeves. Outside, heavy iron railings were twisted, and a 1-ton boulder had been tossed aside. Wild rumors exploded: murder, foreign spies, or even a sea serpent. Experts now believe a colossal rogue wave scaled the cliffs and swallowed them alive. Their bodies were never found. What could terrify an experienced keeper enough to run blindly into a deadly storm without his coat? 9 expert hikers sliced their tent open from the inside and ran barefoot into a freezing abyss. In 1959, the Dyatlov group vanished on Russia's Dead Mountain. When searchers found their camp, the scene defied all logic. The team had abandoned their survival gear, fleeing into -30-degree darkness. The recovered bodies revealed a horrifying story. Some simply froze to death. Others suffered brutal, crushing trauma, comparable to a high-speed car crash, yet had no external signs of a struggle. One victim was inexplicably missing her eyes and tongue. Adding to the terror, their clothing tested positive for high levels of radiation. Theories range from a freak slab avalanche and panic-inducing wind frequencies to top-secret Soviet missile tests. Investigators abruptly closed the case, blaming a compelling unknown force. Decades later, science tells us how they died, but we still don't know what they were running from. Imagine holding a maximum security prison hostage with a piece of fruit. In May 1986, French gangster Michel Vaujour pulled off the impossible at Paris's notorious La Santé prison. His wife, Nadine, had spent months secretly learning to fly. On the day of the breakout, she hovered a rented helicopter right over the prison roof. Below, Michel and a fellow inmate forced their way past guards. Their weapon? Nectarines painted to look like deadly grenades. Terrified guards froze. A rope dropped from the sky. Michel hoisted himself into the chopper. Then came the twist. As the helicopter ascended, Michel abandoned his accomplice on the roof, leaving him to face the guards alone. Michel vanished into the Parisian sky. Although he was eventually recaptured, a dark mystery remains. An unknown, heavily armed man was in that helicopter with Nadine. He disappeared without a trace. Who was this phantom accomplice, and where is he hiding today? For over a century, the maximum security Clinton Correctional Facility was considered escape-proof, until 2 convicted killers vanished like ghosts. It was June 2015. Richard Matt and David Sweat didn't just break out, they engineered a masterclass in deception. Using hacksaw blades smuggled inside frozen hamburger meat, they sliced through the steel walls of their cells. Night after night, they placed incredibly realistic dummies in their beds to fool the guards. They slipped into the shadows, mapping a dark labyrinth of subterranean tunnels. They shattered a brick wall. They carved their way through a massive steam pipe. Finally, they crawled out of a street manhole, disappearing into the night. By morning, guards found only empty beds and a chilling sticky note left behind. "Have a nice day." A massive 23-day manhunt ultimately ended with Matt dead and Sweat in chains. But the true mystery is terrifying. How did 2 men use heavy tools and roam underground prison tunnels every single night for months, completely undetected? They caught the fugitives, but the true truth of who else looked the other way remains buried behind bars. How do you cage a man who owns the sky? Pascal Payet didn't just escape maximum security prison once, he did it 3 times, always using hijacked helicopters. In 2001, the convicted murderer was plucked from a French prison yard by a hovering chopper. 2 years later, he flew back to the exact same prison to break out 3 of his friends. Terrified authorities moved him constantly, placing him under extreme solitary confinement. But on Bastille Day 2007, masked men hijacked a third chopper. Hovering over his new prison, they cut through the newly installed anti-helicopter netting, and Payet vanished into the clouds again. He was eventually recaptured, but a chilling mystery remains. How did a man, totally isolated in solitary confinement, flawlessly orchestrate a complex aerial extraction from inside a concrete box? Today, Payet is locked in a secret underground cell because for a man who controls the sky, the only way to keep him captive is to bury him alive. How do you walk out of a federal prison without picking a single lock? In 1971, notorious con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. did the impossible. When a U.S. Marshal forgot his detention paperwork, he didn't panic, he adopted. He convinced the heavily armed guards he wasn't an inmate, but an undercover FBI prison inspector. Using a smuggled, forged FBI business card, Abagnale boldly demanded to step outside to meet his partner. The guards actually laughed, boasting they were too smart to be fooled. Then they unlocked the gates and simply let him walk away into the night. Later, he famously claimed to escape a taxiing jetliner by dropping through a toilet hatch onto a dark runway. But here is the chilling twist. Aviation experts and modern investigative journalists have uncovered a dark truth. These legendary escapes were physically impossible. Evidence suggests Abagnale was just a sloppy, small-time crook who completely fabricated his own myth. The ultimate deception wasn't a daring prison break. If the master of illusion never actually escaped, what else is a lie?